Whether you love football or you hate football, I think one thing that we can all agree on is there's nothing quite like Super Bowl food and Super Bowl snacks. Some people like myself just love the game. Some people just love the commercials, but we all love the food. So today I'm gonna show you my top 5 Super Bowl snacks. And I'm not much of a snacker, but for the Super Bowl, I'm gonna make an exception. So let's get into these snacks for the big game right after this. Whether you're taking snacks and food to a friend's house or you're having your own Super Bowl party, these are great foods that everyone will love, even if they're not keto. They're my favorites and I think they'll be your favorites too. I'm gonna show you in this video my tips and tricks for making these. I'm gonna show you an epic fail, and my wife usually makes those, and I didn't pay enough attention when she made them last time, so I really screwed them up. I'll tell you how to make them so they come out great, and I'm gonna show you how I fixed them so they still come out decent. Not great, but decent. And because I messed it up so bad, I'm gonna give you another recipe at the end, so make sure you stick around for that. The first thing I wanna show you how to make are my air fryer wings. You can sauce these with whatever you want. I'm gonna show you how I make my buffalo sauce. And if you're in a rush, you can use some of the pre-made sauces that I'm gonna show you. Not the cleanest, but much better than the alternative of what everybody else is gonna be serving. So let's get right into these air fryer wings. So the first thing you're gonna need, of course, is some chicken wings. I know some of you like to leave them whole, so we'll do that too. You're gonna need 2 of my favorite kitchen tools, the gallon freezer bags. And you're gonna need to get yourself some baking powder to coat these wings with. The way I like to do this is just put a tablespoon or 2 of your baking powder into each bag. We're gonna use this to coat the chicken, and it's gonna make a nice and crispy skin. Now this is about 4 pounds of wings, and so what I like to do is just take about half of them and go ahead and put them into the Ziploc bag. And you can leave them whole like this, or you can cut them into flats and drumsticks. Either way, however you like them, it's gonna work either way for you. Once you've got your wings in the bag, you just wanna give them a good shake. Make sure you get that baking powder all over the wings, and if you don't have enough, make sure you add more because you want these to be fully coated. Once these wings are coated with the baking powder, I like to go in and season them. Now you can of course do this ahead of time, just add the seasoning to your baking powder, but I like to live dangerously. So sometimes, even at the risk of forgetting to season them at all. But I'm just gonna put the seasoning in there, I'm gonna give them another good shake, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil to them. Now you could wait until right before you cook them to do this, but I feel like sitting in the baking powder, the marinade of the olive oil, and the seasonings just help it out a little bit. So once you've got all your wings in the bags, you just want to seal them up really nice, give them a little final shake, and then we're going to take them to the refrigerator. We're going to keep them in there for an hour or so, or until you're ready to eat. After these have sat in the fridge for a little while and got real happy, I'm gonna put them in the air fryer, and don't put that many on one side. I'm gonna split them up into 2 different sides and show you exactly how that looks. And so then I changed my mind and I decided that I would cut the flats off from the drums just so I could show you exactly what that looks like if you wanna do it, because it is cheaper to buy the whole wings than it is to buy them already split. So this is what I always do. I will cut them up like this. I don't mess with buying just the individual drums, but I'm never gonna pay full price to do that when I can easily cut them with a pair of kitchen scissors like this. Now that that's done, I'm gonna put them in the air fryer. I'm gonna turn it on air fry at 390 degrees, and I'm gonna go for 20, 25, 30, let's do 27 minutes and check them out after that. So after that 27 minutes is up, I'm gonna give them a good shake because I'm gonna start this buffalo sauce. So I'm gonna take my hex-clad pot and I'm gonna throw in some butter. Now there's no exact measurement that I'm gonna put in here, but just know that however much butter you put in the same amount of hot sauce. So if you throw in 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of hot sauce go in, and we're gonna start to cook this down. Now this buffalo sauce is proper, and I'm gonna show you a couple other sauces that we use. I know they have seed oils in them,
But hey, if you're in a hurry, if you're doing a Super Bowl party, a football party, or just getting some appetizers together, and you need to work quick, these are good sauces, about the best you can find. Since I batch cooked these in the air fryer, I stuck them on a pan, put them in the oven at 250 degrees just to keep them hot, and they are absolutely delicious. We're going to take them out. We're going to sauce some of them with the teriyaki marinade. We're going to sauce some of them with a sweet Thai chili, and we're going to sauce some of them with my buffalo sauce. Now after I put the sauce on them, I've got one more final step that I love to do to ensure that they're going to come out super delicious. So I'm going to go back over to the oven, which I've got preheated to 400 degrees, and I'm going to put these back in the oven for about 3 minutes. Now depending on how many people that you have, you may want to just cook some of them in the oven, but I like batch cooking them like that. You can really put a lot of wings in there. You can sauce them with however many different sauces you like, but those are my go-tos: the teriyaki, the sweet Thai chili, and some buffalo sauce, which is my favorite. And these things are simply delicious. Look at that, super easy. The way I like to serve them is with my blue cheese dressing that I make with no seed oils. If you haven't made that before, I'm gonna put a link down below and up in the corner here for you.
To go with air fryer wings, one of the perfect bar foods that you can have is fried pickles, only without the flour and all the breading. So let me show you what I use to bread mine. I'll show you how to make them quick and easy and delicious, and what to serve them with. Check this out.
I have these dill chips, and I actually got these at the Dollar Tree. If you watch my Keto Dollar Tree video, you'll recognize those. They're really good and $1.25. So I'm just going to take a bunch of those and put them in a strainer, and I want to make sure that they're nice and dry before we go on to the next step. You're going to need some pork panko, and you're going to need some baking powder for the breading. That baking powder really helps dry it out a little more, and you'll need 3 eggs, but don't let that one escape. So just have enough pork rinds on hand to make enough breading for however many pickles you want to do. And if you haven't seen my pork panko video, I'll put a link to it right up in the corner so you know the easiest way to make that. You're just going to add a little bit of the baking powder into it, maybe a tablespoon or 2, and you want to make sure you stir it up really well. And that baking powder will help to dry those pickles out just a little more, but get them as dry as you can before you start. Then I'm just going to take one of my favorite seasonings, this Raging Cajun, the all-purpose seasoning, and I'm going to season up the pork panko and the baking powder. I don't know if you saw my dog in there, but he's hoping he gets something out of this. Now I've cracked my eggs and scrambled them up, and the next thing I'm going to do is just drop my pickles right in there. And you can do a little bit at a time if you want. I'm a little more vigorous with my cooking, so I'm just going to throw them all in and hope for the best. So now that they're in there, I'm going to make sure I get them coated really, really well. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little piece of pimento in there. It's kind of like a foreshadowing of the next recipe that I'm going to do right after this one. But just make sure those are all combined really, really well, because we're going to go ahead and dip those into the pork breadcrumbs. So give these pickles just a little bit of a shake when you take them out of that egg and put them in the pork breadcrumbs, because you want them to be pretty wet so that the pork breadcrumbs and the baking powder sticks to it, but not overly so. This is what they should look like when you get done. And if you want them a little more breaded, you could always dip them back in the egg and dip them back in the pork breadcrumbs again for a double battered fried pickle. I like them just like this, so this is how I'm going to cook them. But if you like the more breading, then by all means you can go ahead and do that. Now with this particular Ninja air fryer, you don't have to preheat it. But if you need to preheat yours, you're going to preheat it to 400 degrees and put your pickles in your air fryer basket just like that. Make sure you leave a little bit of space in between so that they cook evenly. I'm going to load up both sides of mine, and I have this match cook feature on this where if you do one side and the other, it'll do exactly the same, or you can cook 2 different things that have different temperatures at the same time. And we're going to cook them for 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes, this is how they look. So I'll stick them in for another minute or 2 maybe. I'm going to probably have to try one out just to make sure it's good. And serve those with my blue cheese dressing as well.
How can you have a keto Super Bowl party and not have bacon? Let me show you how I make my sweet, slightly spicy candied bacon. And you might want to triple or quadruple this recipe because this stuff's going to be gone before you know it. Check it out.
The first thing you have to do is make sure you've got your oven preheated to 400 degrees.
So normally when I cook bacon, I'm going to use my microwave bacon grill. But for this, I'm going to use a pan. I'm going to line it with aluminum foil, and I'm going to put a cooling rack right on top. So for this candied bacon, you're going to need a pack of bacon. You're going to need some of this Splenda Magic Baker, the brown mix, and you're going to need your seasoning of choice. I like this Raging Cajun all-purpose seasoning, but you're going to need some sort of seasoning. It's got a little bit of spice in it. So I'm going to line this entire tray with bacon, as much as I can fit on there, and probably a little too much. So I'm going to take this Magic Baker's brown and just layer it all the way across the top of the bacon, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So I have the Magic Baker brown spread all across this bacon. I'm just going to take a spoon, kind of press it in, just to make sure it adheres enough to the bacon, and then I'll show you the next step. So I've pressed all this brown sweetener in, and now we're going to go in with our seasoning and just season the whole thing. Just for a little bit of spice and a little bit of heat. So now I'm going to go into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how crispy you want your bacon. So it's been 20 minutes, and this is your candied bacon. If you want a little crispier, you can do a little crispier. For me, that's perfect. Now this channel is called Southern Keto, so of course we're gonna have some Southern food in here. This one uses my pimento cheese recipe, and I'll put a link to that up there so that you can make it, or use your favorite pimento cheese. And leave me a comment if you've got a great pimento cheese that doesn't use seed oils. I like to try to avoid those as much as possible, but if you don't have time to make it fresh, just use your favorite. But if you got time, definitely make my pimento cheese to put in this. Let me show you my country ham bites.
So you're going to need some ham, and you can dice it yourself, or what I like to do is just get this diced ham. And this is a 1 pound bag, and we're going to use about half of that for this recipe. You're going to need some of my pimento cheese, and I'll link the recipe for that at the top. Use your favorite bowl, you know what mine is. And then as soon as that's in the bowl, I'm going to go ahead and add in my pimento cheese. Now for the hard part. And there's no way for me to teach this. This just has to be learned by practice. It's my world famous one-handed mixing technique. It's kind of like a tornado. You just mix it around, mix it around, mix it around, or just do it like that through the magic of YouTube. And there is my method right there. It's probably better if you just use both hands and stir it up, just mix it together. Now go ahead and get your pork panko and 3 eggs ready to go. And you're going to need to preheat your oven. And we're going to put that oven on 350 degrees. Now for the next part, we're going to take the parchment paper, line the baking pan, and I'm just going to take a little cookie scooper or a dough scooper, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to take our cheese and ham mixture and form it into little balls and put it on the baking sheet. And you can use a spoon to do that too if you don't have one of the cookie scoopers. Now what I'm going to do is take them and roll them around in my hand just to make them a little bit tighter. I want to go ahead and form them into the shape to begin with, but then I'm going to compress them a little so that they're going to be easier to bread and they'll hold together better once they bake.
If you like keto and low carb snack recipes like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button that lit up down there for you, and you'll know anytime I make another one.
Now we're going to get everything together to bread these. So I'm going to take my bowl, I'm going to crack 3 eggs into it. And now I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to start to whisk these eggs together. Make sure they're really, really well mixed before you coat these ham balls with them, because you're definitely not going to want little chunks of egg on top of the ham ball. And this will make it come out really, really good. Now that we've got the eggs whisked really well, we're going to set up a station with egg on one side and the pork panko on the other. I had to change my angle for just a second so you could see my fierce little pup there trying to run around and see if he can get something that falls on the ground. Now, I'm not dropping anything today, buddy. So now I'm going to take these ham and cheese balls and make sure they're nice and tight. If they're not, go ahead and give them another roll. Dunk them in the egg just a little. Make sure you let the excess drip off of there, and then throw it in the pork panko, roll it around until it's pretty well coated, and put it back on the pan. We're going to repeat that for all of these, and I'll show you what to do next. Now that they're all rolled out, I'm going to go ahead and put them in my oven that's preheated. And I'm going to set my oven timer to 25 minutes or until they're brown. So once they're done, this is what they should look like. If you want to, you could take them, just kind of smash them up again after they've cooled a little bit and rebake them if you want them a little bit crispier. That'd be just fine. But I think they're delicious like that, and it's a great football snack.
I'm going to link a video in the corner. If you have some of these country ham bites left over, I'll show you how you can use those to make a delicious dinner the next day, and you don't have to think about what to eat. Okay, so this one was a complete and utter fail. I'm going to show you how I made these, and I'm going to tell you how you can fix them. But we're really cooking here. I didn't take the time to learn this recipe because I've watched my wife make it so many times. They always come out great, and I usually do the cooking, so I figured, how hard can it be? Well, if you skip 2 steps, it's really hard, and it comes out terrible, as you will see right now. So you're gonna wanna preheat the oven to 500 degrees. It's not much I cook at this temperature, but for these, you gotta cook them quick. So here's what you're gonna need for the cheese sticks. You're gonna need 1 block of mozzarella cheese. Make sure you get the low moisture part skim mozzarella. You're gonna need an egg, maybe 2, but for 1 block, 1 egg should work perfectly. You're gonna need some pork panko or pork breadcrumbs, and I'll link my video up above to show you the best way that I've found to make these. And you're gonna need some seasoning salt. Now this is optional. You could use salt and pepper, or you don't have to use anything at all if you don't want. So just take the block of cheese, cut it in half like this. Then we'll just take it and cut this into 4ths. Then we'll take all these pieces and cut them in half. And those will be your cheese sticks. All right, so I'm gonna take an egg, crack it into here. We're just gonna scramble it up. I'm gonna put the cheese right inside there and just coat each piece of cheese with the egg. So I'm just gonna line a baking sheet with some parchment paper
And then spray it really well with some avocado oil.
Got my cheese coated with the egg. So let's go ahead and bread these and put them on the pan. And you can do this however you want. I'm gonna throw it all in there because it's halftime and I'm trying to get back to the game. So I'm gonna throw all this in there. I'm gonna coat it and we're gonna put it on the pan. And a pro tip to make this a little faster, put the lid on, just give it a nice shake until they're all fully coated. And you get a little workout at the same time. So once these are coated, I'm going to put them on this baking pan and we're going to bake them in the oven. So these are going to go in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes. or until they look proper. So the trick to making these mozzarella sticks, and what I did not do, is number one, when you coat these, you want to coat them once, dip them back in the egg, coat them again, and if they don't look like they're fully coated, do it one more time. Then, the key and most important part, because they still would have come out decent, just without a lot of the pork panko breading on it, is you gotta freeze them for 2 hours. So bread them, throw them in the freezer for 2 hours, so you need a little preparation time, and then cook them just like I told you, and they'll come out great. But let me show you what I did to fix them after I made this grand mess. Check it out. So I had a little mozzarella cheese stick problem. These melted, but I'm gonna let these cool. I'm gonna cut them up with a pizza cutter, and we'll see how they come out. There's a couple ways you can fix it. One, you can just cut them like this with a pizza cutter. Cut them in half that way. Then you can take these individual pieces, roll them up and coat them. Do that one more time, just bake them for a few minutes. Or what I'm gonna do is just cut them into pieces and eat them just like they are. So I think these will be just fine. And hey, if the guests don't like them, you know what to tell them to bring next year. So I guess you could call that mozzarella roll-ups. I'm not exactly sure what to call them. I mean, they still tasted great, but they could have come out a whole lot better. So definitely don't plan on taking those to somebody's house unless you follow the steps that I told you. So since we failed on those, I'm gonna show you these nachos that I make. Now you can use my Egg Life tortillas, and I'll put a link up there and in the description for how to make those. I actually like them better than these chips that we used, but these chips were quick and easy, and they're keto-ish. So I decided to give them a try. Make them with the Egg Life wraps if you have time. But if not, this is a decent substitute. So we're gonna preheat the oven to 375 degrees. So for these nachos, here's what you're gonna need. You're gonna need a pound of ground beef. And I like the 80-20. That's my favorite to make tacos, or pretty much anything else. You're gonna need some of my taco seasoning, and I'll put a link to that up above. If you haven't made it before, you're gonna love it. I'm gonna put an onion in there, actually 2, because these are so tiny. These are the tiniest Vidalia onions I've ever seen. For reference there. These are minuscule. I'm gonna top them with some tomatoes, some avocado, and you're gonna wanna top them with some cheese. I'm gonna use some pepper jack and some extra sharp cheddar. You can use whatever kind of cheese you like. And for the chips, you can either use my Egg Life tortillas, and I'll put a link for that up above. Or this time I got these Mr. Tortilla crunchy chips. I want to try them out. I've never had them before, so we'll see how they do. I know the Egg Life wrap ones work well, but we'll try these out this time. So for these nachos, I'm going to take a pan over medium heat, add a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to start to saute this onion. So once your oil is heated up, just dump those onions in. We're going to cook those down for just a few minutes. So after these onions have cooked down like this, just go right in with your ground beef. We'll cook that down for a few minutes, then we'll add in the taco seasoning. So when the onions and the meat are cooked, go ahead and pour in that taco seasoning, give it a good stir, and make sure you watch my taco video to know how to cook this without having to drain that meat. All right, so I got my parchment paper lined baking pan. I'm gonna put on the Mr. Tortilla crunchy chips. Hopefully they are crunchy chips, we'll see. You can always use the Egg Life tortillas that I make. We know they're gonna come out great, but let's try these out and see how they are. Because this is the big game, and I don't have time to make them tonight. I got in a little bit of a hurry and forgot my son was eating too, and he is not keto. So we're doing some regular tortilla chips on this side, the Mr. Tortilla on this side, and we're gonna put the other toppings on. So we're gonna put a little bit of cheese on first. And then we'll put this meat on. And then another layer of chips. Oh yeah.
And then we're gonna add more cheese. Oh, and of course the most important part, one more time we're gonna add some meat, and then we're gonna finish it off by adding cheese all over the top.
This is optional, but I like to sprinkle on a little bit of that all-purpose seasoning. I'm gonna put these in the oven for 10 minutes.
And when these come out of the oven, ooh-wee. And you can top these with whatever you want. I like to use some tomato and some avocado. Throw a little sour cream on there, just like I like my tacos. I like a lot of fat on there. Look how great those look. We're gonna put a plate together with all these Super Bowl snacks. Y'all enjoy.
Well, another football season is over, and as us Falcons fans always say, there's always next year. So I'm gonna take this shirt off, hang it in the closet. Until next season. Hope you enjoy these recipes. Hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. And I'll put a video with some more appetizers over there that you may want to make as well for the ultimate Super Bowl party or football party, or they're good any time of year if you like to have a little snack. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Hope your team wins.